Yo.
What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right, then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B. For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community. Street Beat. Street Beat with Tony B.
Good afternoon and welcome back. If you were here just recently, you know that we interviewed King County Executive Candidate Vermont Live. Joining us very shortly will be King County Executive Candidate Claudia Balducci. Again, we'll be asking questions about housing, public safety, and just the awareness of who we are as a community, which has kind of been one of the questions that we're talking about here. This is Halloween, and I told you we were going to have something spooky and scary going on. We're going to be talking about politics. You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. We're broadcasting live and local. And you know, these are your issues, your concerns. Your voice truly matters. It's me, your host, Tony B. This event is powered, the Community Election Connection is powered by the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. And so as we're heading towards the end of this particular electoral season, we continue our mission to inform, educate, and engage our community so that when you cast your ballot, you're doing it with knowledge, insight, and power. Today, we are honored to have with us, and I appreciate you coming back, a candidate running for King County Executive, Claudia Balducci. Claudia is a longtime public servant, currently serving on the King County Council, representing District 6. Her career has included being as mayor of Bellevue, serving as a transportation leader, and working to make government more efficient, equitable, and accessible. Whether you agree with that or don't agree with that, that's what it is. And we're going to talk with candidate Balducci about her vision, as I mentioned, for homelessness, public safety, environmental justice, and how she plans to lead a region that's growing, diversifying, and facing serious challenges. You know how we get down on Rainier Avenue Radio. You know how I get down on Street Beat. We're going to ask tough questions, dig into the issues, and give you, the voter, the information that you need to have your voice heard. Let's get into it. And I'm welcoming, and thanks for coming back, candidate Balducci. And I'll be calling you candidate Balducci. Is the same thing. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to do the same process. This is not a debate, but I am going to give you 2 minutes for an opening statement. Okay. Then I'll start asking you questions. Right. But for 2 minutes, I would like you to share your opening statement with our audience in your words, whatever it is that you would like our audience to hear.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I guess I'll talk to the audience when I do this. My name is Claudia Balducci, and I am running for King County Executive because I believe that fundamentally, when local government does our job right, we make people's lives easier and better. I'm a longtime public servant. I have worked for King County starting as a floor level employee over 25 years ago, worked my way up to run a big department, and I have served also now on the King County Council. You mentioned that I served in Bellevue. I represent the East Side, and I've served as a Bellevue council member and the mayor of Bellevue. And I think that when people hear all that Bellevue, they may assume that I'm a wealthy person or I come from wealth. I do not. I come from a family of public servants. I'm the daughter of a public school elementary school teacher, a sister of a firefighter, and my stepfather was a court officer. So we've all worked in government in one way or another. And that is why I so deeply believe that we need to do our job right. As county executive, I think the priority has to be building trust with the public by doing the things you expect us to do well. So, for example, we have a $10 billion a year budget. That's 10 billion of your tax dollars. And we have been hearing lately from auditors and others that in some cases that money isn't being managed well, isn't being, and our contractors that we're spending money on aren't being supported well. And for those reasons, we don't know if we're getting the benefit of the services we're trying to provide youth in the community, for example. That was one of the audits we had recently. We have to do a better job of that. We have to make sure that we are partnering with the community, that funding is going where it is needed, and having the results that we want. And then finally, I'll say my priorities have always been expanding access to affordable housing, making sure people have good jobs and a way to support themselves, and then supporting transportation and public safety so that the community is safe and can get around. These are the things I've worked on my whole career, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion about them all with you today.
All right. Again, this is Tony B. This is Rainier Avenue Radio, and we are your community election connection. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you, are you familiar with Rainier Avenue Radio and the role that we play in the community and what we do?
Yeah.
And if you're not, that's okay.
I would say only a little bit. I've listened to it on occasion, but it's not my local radio. So I'd love to hear more if you want to tell me more.
Well, we broadcast in the interest of South Seattle specifically,
Right.
But because South Seattle is so diverse, we have listenership from all over the city, the county, the state, and the country.
That's great.
Actually, we have over 90 members of our community who host shows on this radio station to amplify their voices and share their concerns. We broadcast high school sports. We were very critical to this community, and not only this community, but to the Washington State Department of Health and to King County Public Health during COVID, because of the role that we played and the connection that we had to the community and making sure that the voices of this community were heard during that period of time. That's just a little bit of what we do. We also provide training programs. We offer courses in everything from coding to app design, web design, film, photography, and broadcast. We've graduated over 500 students from our program. We have either taught or are currently teaching programs in every middle school and high school in South Seattle. We have youth who are broadcasting as we speak today at Notre Dame, at USC, at University of Washington, at Butler, at Western Washington. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
So we do a lot.
I love that. Did Cindy Black host a show on this? Cindy Black, was she a host on your on Rainier Black on Rainier Avenue Radio, or was it a different local radio station?
Black. No, not
Okay.
There was a
I'll
Cindy.
email you later. Yeah.
Okay. There was a Cindy, but I don't think it was Cindy Black.
Okay.
The other thing about this community election connection, along with it being powered by the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, is we did a 4-part series on police accountability. I was watching after there was a shooting by a police officer. Our chief of police, Sean, his last name Barnes, was talking about how they are going to deal with this independently now that there is no longer this thing called the consent decree, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And it's one of the issues that our community doesn't really know a lot about. And we covered a few issues, whether that was the consent decree or a chronic nuisance or surveillance. And at the end of the day, candidate Balducci, there's been a breakdown in trust between communities of color and law enforcement. As county executive, how would you balance public safety with police accountability, and how will you ensure that communities most impacted by over-policing are part of the solution, not just the statistics?
Yeah, that is, it's a really important question and issue. I have worked as part of my day job, I worked within the criminal justice system with the jails, actually. And so I have been responsible in the past for running a jail reform effort, which was similar to the consent decree in the Seattle Police Department, but it was at King County. And so I'm very familiar with the concept that we need to take a good look at how law enforcement does their job. Everybody wants to feel protected. Everybody wants somebody to come when you call and you need that kind of help. But what you don't want is to be over-policed, harassed, picked upon, right? And we just have this history in this country and in our region of that being very targeted racially, and very much a focus on Black communities feeling over-policed and underprotected, if I can say it that way. And so I think the next county executive, who will be only the second county executive to actually be in charge of the sheriff's office, the sheriff's no longer elected, it now reports directly to the county executive, is going to need to lean very heavily into both ends of that spectrum, providing response and safety services when they are needed, and having accountability and making sure that policing is serving, not over policing. And so I'm very familiar with the process of how this works. What I think we need to lean into more than we have done in the past is exactly what you said, having regular routine contacts between the sheriff's office and our system and the community so that we are hearing one another, communicating both ways, working on what's working, building on that, fixing what's not working. But also the county executive, him or herself, is going to need to show up in community and hear directly, because now that person's in charge of it all. And so I really, really hope and look forward to being able to be a person who develops those relationships and uses the levers and the tools I know work for reform, but doing it in a way that the community sees and informs and feels part of.
Well, you mentioned your previous work in the jail.
Correct.
I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm not going to make a. King County Jail and Department of Adult Juvenile Detention have faced issues from staffing shortages to inmate deaths. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
They have.
What is your plan to address this crisis while also advancing meaningful justice reform?
Yeah. Well, first of all, an understaffed jail means that we don't have enough people to properly manage the folks who are in jail. It's essentially means overcrowding, because you have to close off parts of the jail. They are overcrowded. You don't have enough people to manage. And an overcrowded jail is a bad place. It is a place where people's rights are likely to be violated, where there's likely to be violence, and you just don't want it. So I think, first of all, we have to make sure that we have good staffing. We have to have the right level of staffing. And we have to have good training. I have seen corrections officers who are outstanding at de-escalating, helping inmates get connected to what they need so that there can be a real dearth of information waiting for your case to be processed, and that's very stressful. I've seen folks who do a fantastic job helping people sort of be safe and stable as they can be in that setting. So get it running right. Absolutely. But then the bigger question is, who is in the jail? Why are they in the jail? And do we need to have people in the jail, right? Like, it is not a place to put people because you don't have the right systems to help their real needs. So one of the things that I am very much in favor of, and as the county executive, I really want to work on, is a place when you have people who are, say, in crisis, mental health crisis, drug addiction. Right now, your options are, if you are unable to manage your life because of severe crisis, you're on the street, you're in the jail, or you're in Harborview. Those are the options that we have. And even when we have the crisis care centers open, those are for people who are ready to say, I need help, take me inside. We need another place that is the place you can go when it's not appropriate to be in jail, but you need help. And that is something. So for that crisis end of the spectrum, we need more service. For the just day-to-day, I really want to make sure that we are, as I say, you can never arrest your way to a healthy community. I believe we need to have a jail. I believe we should use it for what it's meant for, which is keeping people safe while they are, charged with violent offenses or other serious offenses and being processed. But we'll never arrest our way to a healthy community. You have to invest in the community in going all the way, as they say, upstream to education, jobs, help, like anything people need to be successful and launch themselves, so that we have the win-win of successful people, less need for that crisis end of law enforcement.
Thank you. And again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our community election connection. We are excited to have candidate for King County Executive Claudia Balducci stop by, share a conversation with us, have a conversation with us. This is what we do on Rainier Avenue Radio. This is how I get down. I just ask open, honest, frank conversations. So it's a little different than a debate, but at the same time, it's going to give our listeners, our followers, and anyone who happens to be watching an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So we just had 16 years of Dow Constantine?
Almost.
I think 16 years. A lot of things have happened during that time, and a lot of things people would say need to be changed. What would you say has been the biggest failure of Dow Constantine that you can say, I'm going to do this differently?
Yeah. I always like to start with something a little positive, if I may, just to take the question, and then I'll come right at that. I think Dow did some amazing work and was very creative, especially in starting programs like Best Starts for Kids. So Best Starts for Kids is a wholly new idea based on brain science and the recognition at the University of Washington that the first 3 years of life in terms of mental development of a human infant is I mean, we knew this, but we saw how very important it is. And so the idea behind this large human services levy was to invest in communities, invest in families and babies, really young kids, to make sure that they are getting the stimulation, the education, the nutrition, all the things they need at that young age so that they succeed. What I like about this, it's a long-term investment. Most elected officials, we tend to think in 4 years, chunks of 4 years, because we're up every 4 years for re-election. What can I say I did? And I like the fact that we are investing in a longer-term hope for the future, and I want us to keep doing that. So I will say there was definitely some positive things. One thing I have observed about the county that I think very much needs to be addressed is I don't know that we are doing a great job of making sure that the very generous amounts of funding we receive from the taxpayers is making it to the communities in an impactful way. I feel that
You said you don't know?
I don't know that that's what's happening. I feel like it needs to happen more.
Okay.
So we spend $1.5 billion a year in human services funding and contracting with through local nonprofits mostly. We've got an audit back that says that we did not have good sense of where this money was going and how it was being spent. And that's just accountability. That's just, is the money getting to the people it should be getting to in a way that we can account for it? I want to go beyond that. I want to be accountable. I want to be legal. More than that, I want to make sure that the community is receiving the investment we promised and that it's having the results that we want to see, which is successful young people, successful families, thriving communities. So I think that accountability, government being accountable to the community, that we are investing the way we should in partnership with community-based organizations and culturally competent local organizations, and that we are collectively having the impact we want. That is something that will be like my laser focus as executive, if I get to have that job, making sure we're making a difference. I had a person who I consider a very wise older elected official who said sarcastically, government cares because we spend. We don't care because we spend. We care because we get the results that people are asking us to get, and we need to be more accountable to that.
You bring that up. We care because so King County has a budget that's massive.
It's large.
And you say we care because we spend, but a lot of residents don't feel the impact.
And that's my point. Like
of that
spending isn't caring. Having impact is caring, right? Yeah.
So how will you ensure that there's transparency and accountability so that voters actually see where their tax dollars are going?
That's right. I mean, it sounds simple, probably harder than it sounds. We need to be very clear. What is it we're trying to accomplish with all our programs? What is our goal? What have we promised to you, the voters? We promised, let's say it's an education program. We promised that there would be more affordable early learning and childcare in the following ways. And we have to publicize that's our promise, commit ourselves, and then be honest. Did we achieve that in a year? Did we achieve that in 2 years? Did we achieve that in 3? And if we're not achieving the goals we promised, we have to change up what we're doing so that we are having the impact. How we communicate that to people so that they hear it is really hard. I actually think this kind of a forum would be an amazing place to have an accountability session regularly every now and again, talk to the public, because the mainstream media used to have reporters that covered King County, and that's all they did, a King County beat. There's no such thing anymore. So we only get covered when something newsworthy happens, very good or very bad. And most of the time, people don't know what we're doing. We can push out emails. Not everybody's on our email list. I think we need to work on having community connections where we are routinely showing up in public or in a format like this. Remember when we said last year that we were going to accomplish this goal? You know what? We're really not making enough progress. Here's how we're going to change up or whatever. But reporting is something that the media used to do more of. Government is going to have to take that role on, or else people don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I want to talk about homelessness and unsheltered folks.
Sure.
And there is a concern that suburban cities are just pushing unhoused residents towards Seattle and South King County. And this is a big issue, and it's not just one place that's going to be able to deal with this. How would you ensure that every city in King County shares responsibility for addressing homelessness? Or maybe you don't agree with that statement?
Yeah, no, first let me say that I absolutely agree with that. It is all of our responsibility. People in homelessness comes from all parts of this county, and they have connections and sometimes jobs in all parts of this county, and we all should do our part together. And frankly, we're not going to succeed unless we all do our part together. One thing I always like to share, when I became the mayor of Bellevue in 2014, there was not a single permanent homeless shelter in all of East King County, not one. And so I made a proposal to the cities of Kirkland and Redmond, and we shook hands. And as a group of 3 cities, we created a women's shelter, a family shelter, and a men's shelter, and also some permanent supportive housing. First ever in East King County. We are trying to start doing our part to have that kind of infrastructure and services in our part of King County. And I will tell you, when I would run for re-election, I would frequently hear, she's bringing Seattle's problems over here. I would hear that. And my answer would be, no, we have been exporting our problems for many, many years. I work at the county courthouse right across the street from Pioneer Square, and the densest suite of human services and shelter that there is in this entire state sits right there. And you can see it. You see the people on the street. You see people overdosing. You see the police and the ambulances there all the time. And the area can feel a little out of control because there's so much going on. There is an issue with putting too much in one place. It is easier to manage, easier to handle, more humane, more effective if we have services scattered in different parts around King County. Also, so people can be where their support services are, where they have, what their path to stability is. So I very much believe we should all do our part. I look at how we have made an attempt to do that through the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. It was the right idea. Everybody worked together. It has not resulted, in fact, in everybody working together. One thing I think it's important for people to know, quite often you'll hear people, Mayor Harrell says this, and I understand his frustration. Seattle is paying into the Homelessness Authority by far the most amount of money. King County is second, and then there's almost nobody else paying in. But that's not to say that suburban cities aren't using their budgets for homelessness. They are. Virtually every city of any size has got a homelessness coordinator, a contract with a shelter, some kind of services. What we're not doing is coordinating and having the same goals, clear goals, and working in agreed upon ways to get to those goals. That's what I think the next King County executive and mayor of Seattle, frankly, really need to focus on, is bringing together that coordination so that we do start to build confidence that we can make a difference when we work together. That will also help the suburban cities to come in and do more.
And you know what I like about this particular format, and I think debates are great as well. But instead of having a minute to answer or 2 minutes to answer.
I really appreciate the time. Thank you. It can be a little wordy. I'm sorry.
No, it's good because then it gives us the opportunity to have a conversation and address some of these issues. So I get, you would agree when I say that King County does continue to struggle with homelessness.
Indeed.
Despite billions of dollars.
That's right.
Being spent. So what is missing? From this approach, and what would you do? And what would you put in place to make sure that progress is real and not just during this electoral season promised? That's right.
That's and good point. We make an awful lot of promises on the campaign trails, but what can we really do? I think is a good question. As I said, coordination will help because all those resources are being used in different ways depending on the priorities of where they are. And I think if we were all truly pulling in the same direction, we would get more done. So that's one way to do it. Another thing I've observed is during COVID, we learned something very important. We learned that when people are given a stable place to live, a room with a door, privacy, a kitchen to cook or a kitchenette to cook in, their own bathroom, their own shower, a place to store their stuff securely, it really does make a tremendous difference. People get much better very quickly when they have that kind of stability. The problem is, if that level of housing is the only level of housing we are going to offer people in homelessness, we will never have enough money to house everybody. We have to be willing to be a little scrappier. We have to be willing to deploy things like congregate shelters, which is where people may live in cubicles. It can be semi-private. It can have locked containers, but it's not a separate room. That's, in fact, the kind of shelters that we built that I was talking about before were congregate shelters. And we can look at things like tiny home villages where that makes sense. We have to be willing to scale up that first door, the door out of homelessness into being in a place that's safer and with a roof. And then we need the services, the social connections, the, whatever people need individually, their mental health care, their drug care, whatever they need. Maybe it's just help with a job. Maybe it's just help figuring out how to be independent. And then move people on to the second better door, to the stable place. But I do think we need to be willing to be a little scrappier around how we house people. And I do think we need to be willing to have a loving, but, firm hand in the back and sort of, I am encouraging you now to go inside, not just wait until people say, I'm ready to go inside, because lots of people will be unable to make good choices for themselves because of they can be in very extreme situations. We really need to be able to help people, even if that means saying, we need you not to be here in a tent in a park. We need you to be here in this shelter that we're providing for you.
We talk about collaboration and partnerships. And before we go to break, I just, and we're going to go to break in a second. Again, you're listening to me, Tony B, right here on Street Beat. This is part of our community election connection. My guest is candidate Claudia Balducci for the position of King County Executive. I'm glad we got this in. And I thank you for rearranging your schedule and coming back, because this is important. This is an important position. What, $16 billion or something like that?
$10 billion a year.
So anyway, we're talking about collaboration and partnerships, but sometimes leadership requires something bold. Can you give an example of a time when you took an unpopular stand because it was, in your opinion, the right thing to do? And how did that experience, if you feel like you can answer, shape your leadership as an executive? How will it?
That's a great question. I'm rattling through things. Almost every big thing I've ever been involved in doing was unpopular to some people. Even the popular things are unpopular to some people. Mm-hmm. I will say, I talked before about creating the homeless shelters that we did in East King County. That was very unpopular in some quarters. Mm-hmm. Because you've heard the phrase, not in my backyard, or NIMBY. There, put almost anything, a light rail train, housing, businesses, anything in a neighborhood, there's going to be many people who don't like change and they don't want it there. So citing things is hard. And we are now going to have to cite crisis care centers. If we create the center that's not the jail, not the hospital that I was talking about, we're going to have to put that somewhere. And these are all really difficult. People will come out in droves. I'll share the most controversial thing I was ever involved with was a set of speed bumps that we tried to put in a particular neighborhood, and they filled the chambers one night full of different colored shirts and the signs that said, if you don't do these speed bumps, children will die. And a group of people said, if you do these speed bumps, I'm going to sue you for destroying my car. I mean, it was like, so everything has its fans and its detractors. I think the key thing, you asked about leadership, the key thing is, if you commit to a course of action for a reason, if you have public buy-in for that course of action for that reason, let's just say the crisis care centers, you need to find a way to deliver. You cannot be backed off and forever be going back to the drawing board because the small group of loud people are saying don't do it. You can't give in to wealthy lobbying but usually there's a real issue. And I come from labor relations. I was a labor negotiator. Usually there's a real interest that people have. And if you could get to that, I'm really worried about this crisis care center being here because I think it's going to contribute to more street drug use in my community. Okay, that's a fair interest. Nobody wants more street drug use in their community, nor should they have to have it. Can we find a way to make sure that our operation does not have that result and make people feel comfortable that we are going to operate in a way that does not have that bad result, and then go forward anyway? And to me, that's leadership. Leadership is trying to bring people along. It's trying to meet legitimate needs and listen to people, not write anybody off. But at the end of the day, nothing is perfect, but we need to move forward because we said this is a really important reason to do what we're about to do, and we need to honor that.
You're listening to, thank you.
Yeah.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk about transportation.
Woo.
I'd like to talk about environmental justice. Of course, we'll probably have a few more questions about police accountability and justice, and a couple other things that come up. You know, this is really an opportunity, candidate Balducci, for our community, our listener base, our core, to get to know who you are. And so thank you for coming. We'll be back right after this break.
All right.
Let's go!
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
So I needed to check my kids' immunization records for their school. My doctor told me I could get them quickly online, but I couldn't figure out how. Thankfully, I could turn to Link to Care WA for help. With Link to Care WA, I was able to learn how to use online health portals, use telehealth to talk to my doctor virtually, and even apply for jobs online. I called their free hotline and got help from a real person. Call Link to Care WA at 866-757-1832 or visit linktocarewa.org.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio, every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
What do you get when culture, climate, and community collide? You get Earth Deserves More Than a Day. Rainier Avenue Radio and King County Park stew down with a week of real talk, real people, and real solutions. This ain't your average Earth Day. Tune in and feel the energy, because the movement is now.
Hey, community, listen to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church every Sunday, 10:45 a.m.
We invite you to get up and call a friend and tell them that New Hope is on live. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And now, our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Robert L. Jeffrey Sr.
Everybody clap your hand, come on.
Listen to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church every Sunday, 10:45 a.m.
Are you in need of new or gently used clothing? Hope's Community Closet is here to help. We offer a wide range of clothing for men, women, youth, children, and infants. Join us on the fourth Saturday of each month from 12:30 to 4 at the Silent Task Force. We're giving clothing with care, community with heart. Lovely Ladies Lemonade for sale, and shop to the sound of old school soul. Any questions? Contact Alicia Kennedy, Executive Director of Women United at 206-316-7601. 206-316-7601. Come and find the perfect outfit for you and your family. We look forward to seeing you there.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Welcome back. Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your community radio station, the host of the Community Election Connection. 31 days. Actually, it's more than 31 days. But the goal was from September 15th to October 26th. Hyper-focus on interviews, on panel discussions, on debates, on what was important to you, create awareness and give you knowledge during this electoral season, which is an off season. There's no presidential election. It's not even a midterm. And so people weren't paying attention in the primary. I think there was 35% participation in King County, as opposed to, I think it was the presidential election was 90% participation. However, these local elections determine the future of the community that you live in. So I have a question coming up. Joining me again is candidate Claudia Balducci. This is again for King County Executive. So I need the question, but I'm going to start with this one. Mariners, Seahawks, Storm, Sounders, Rain. You can go to one game. Which game are you going to?
Oh, I got to go to the Storm. I love women's basketball. I used to play.
Okay.
Yeah, played in college a little bit.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So essentially, I told you that we spoke with candidate Zahilai prior to speaking with you. And when I asked him, he felt one of his strengths in regards to this community was the commitment that he had given to this community and your lack of knowledge and awareness and engagement and involvement in this community. I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to that in whatever way you feel like it is. Maybe it's a learning curve that you're now going to address, maybe whatever.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Very good. Thank you. First of all, if I can say in regard to your series on educating the voters and doing this, one of the things that I have championed as a council member is moving our King County elections to even years.
What is that again?
Moving our King County elections to even years. So the next time this position is up will be in 2028, not 2029. And that's because many more people vote even years. We have a much more diverse electorate by age. Many more young people vote. In these off years, mostly older people vote. It's a wider diversity based on race and ethnicity of people who vote. So I'm hoping that when we implement this starting next year in 2026, we will see this community and many other communities participating in selecting these important local offices than we have in the past. And that's now turning around to your question. I was born in New York City, and I grew up in and around New York City. I moved here when I was in my early 20s and put down roots and have lived and worked in what was at the time an affordable part of East King County ever since. And I've represented my city. I started out advocating for my neighborhood, for more housing, for being more inclusive. I ended up being the mayor of my city, and now I represent this larger district. And as I have grown in my work, I have gotten to know different communities around King County, but my focus has been on my district that I represent, including the communities of color in that district. One of the most amazing things about this race, and we've been running now for a little over a year, is that I have been learning so much about the communities outside of my district and getting to know the people, getting to know the on-the-ground realities and needs and ways in which the county has and has not been meeting them. I've worked for the county long enough that I have a sense of how things play out in King County. One thing I will tell you that I have known for a long time since I worked for Ron Sims in the Sims administration is if you look at any outcome you can think of, from birth weight to school attainment, reading age, graduation, job attainment, lifespan, any outcome of a person's life in King County, you can find that there are disparate outcomes based on race and place. Your zip code where you live and your racial background tells the story too often of how well you will do at all of these measures, with people of color and especially Black people, and oddly enough, Pacific Islanders also, faring far worse. And so I know at a policy level that we need to be intentional, we need to work with our communities, and we need to invest in these communities, including this one right here, to make sure that we are changing that direction. The county has been on an anti-racist journey since that time, since that first groundbreaking public health finding. We were the first in the country, I believe, to do that sort of work. But as a person, what I will need to do if I'm elected the county executive is I'm going to need to continue to show up in spaces in this community and other communities where I don't have deep relationships or roots, make sure that I and my administration and the people who work in human services, in public health, in all the things, in economic development and transportation, are showing up here also regularly, getting to build more relationships and understanding the needs, and then investing and doing that continuous improvement thing I talked about before, being honest as we look at ourselves and assess our performance each year. How are we doing? Are we doing well? Are we doing better? No? Okay. But then we have to change up what we're doing so that we are continuously improving. There's a lot of road for me, but I am very committed to it. In fact, I'm excited about it.
Okay. You said invest.
Yeah.
And that can be one of those $25 words.
Mm-hmm.
You also said transparency. So when you say being transparent and investing, and I know this is a big question, but for some people, it's a very singular answer. When you say investing in this community, what does that mean? Investing in what?
Yeah. So the county has done actually something that we call participatory budgeting. Sometimes it's called other things. But the idea is you take actual money, tax dollars, a certain amount of them, as generous as you can be, and you bring in a community group and you work with them on what are the needs and the priorities in this community, and you invest in the things the community tells you they need. And what's fascinating to me, because we've done this in unincorporated King County, which is where we are the local government, there's no city to invest or to represent them. The types of things communities identified as wanting to be invested in were community center, were youth programs, in workforce development. They literally wanted to invest in the future and the success of the people in the community. And so that's what I mean. I mean, investing like that. Mm-hmm. I also think one thing King County has not done a lot of is straight up economic development work, which is we create a budget and we work with local businesses and we do things that help them to succeed. And that can be as like do our job, fix the sidewalks, make sure that we are providing bus service regularly. Like it can be do our jobs well, and therefore that helps the businesses to thrive. It can be actually having business development programs, like when we, you see these when we have big construction projects, when WashDOT or Sound Transit is building along a road. Sometimes they invest directly in advertising and helping businesses quite directly so that they don't shut down because people have limited access to their front door. That's another kind of investing that we could do. And it doesn't have to be just when we're causing a challenge. It can be when an organization is actually struggling and we want to have that. We want to have a grocery store, so we're going to invest in making sure we have grocery stores. And then finally, I will say one of the things that I've been very proud of, I've been a champion of the arts and culture program at King County. And it's not just arts, it's arts, culture, historic preservation, and heritage and science now. So we do direct programming, reduced tickets, school bus programs, et cetera, to go to things. And we adopted, after working for many years, one of the largest arts and culture programs in the country. And we made equity a deep focus of it so that community-based programs, programs by and for communities that have been underrepresented, underinvested in, are getting grants now when they couldn't before to do plays and musical programs and all the things that help young people to excel and not just young people, but so that's what I mean by investing. We have a lot of tax dollars and we put it to work for the community in ways that they value and see as a benefit.
Okay, I'm going to stay on that level that we're at, but I gave candidate Zahilai some props, and I'm going to give you some props. But I think that you supported a number of major regional transportation projects. So I'm calling you a transportation leader.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's a train on my side.
But there are a lot of residents who still feel that the system doesn't share and doesn't serve lower income and working class communities well enough. Under your leadership, how would you change transit planning to better connect South Seattle, Skyway, Renton, and Kent?
The simple answer is that we are building out some major investments that will do some of that, not all of it. When we finish, and these are some of the projects that I have championed over the years, when we finish the bus rapid transit build out at Sound Transit, there will be much better connections between places like Renton and Tukwila and across the south end there. And then also that will connect to a north-south link on the east side. So from Renton all the way up to Bellevue and then on to Kirkland and Linwood. It's a really big corridor for people getting to jobs. A lot of people live in some of those places and work in other of those places.
Now, what is this again? Just say.
It's called Bus Rapid Transit.
Bus Rapid Transit.
And so what that means, it's.
I just want to make sure people get.
Yeah, no, good.
What's going on?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. If you're familiar with the Rapid Ride, these are the red buses. Those run very frequently, like every 10 minutes, all day and all night, and they're very reliable. But they're not very fast. They're called Rapid Ride. They're more like Reliable Ride. These Sound Transit services will have fewer stops, will run in dedicated lanes, some of them on the freeway on 405, and so they will be fast and frequent and connect major locations to each other and to the light rail. And so when we finish that, some of the places you named will have better connectivity to the major systems, but not all. There are places that are kind of off the beaten track of our system and they only have really local buses. So until we are able to make the next big regional expansion, we have got to make sure those local buses work. We've got to make sure that the communities have the local buses they tell us they need and that they work well, come when they're supposed to, are on time, people can rely on them. And it's so important to get community engagement and community input into where do you need the bus, because that's how we learn where people need to ride, is from the people. So I would absolutely want to make sure we are updating our plan, our bus plan. We haven't done that in a while, it's time. And when we update it, ask the people in the various places where we serve, what do you need that you don't have? And then try to draw those lines and fill them in a way where they get better service.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our community election connection. My guest joining me is candidate Balducci, running for the position of King County Executive. Yeah, I'm asking some questions and, maybe putting you on the hot seat a little bit, but really what I want to do is give our community an opportunity to get to know you. Folks have a vote and they get to use that vote. And I encourage you to use that vote in your best interest. What's important to you? What makes a difference to you? We don't have, and I'm glad that we had an hour to talk about some stuff. I'm glad that you brought up early education. I was very vested in early education. I think it's a really important way for folks to get off to a good, healthy start. And we know that it makes a difference. We know that the research has been done to show that this makes a difference. I won't get all into it, but I could. Another thing that I think is critically important to our community is environmental justice. Earth Day, we took at Rainier Avenue Radio Earth Day, and we made it Earth Week.
Nice.
And I don't know if you're aware of that. King County Parks participated in that because there are so many things going on that folks don't make the connection between environmental justice and their daily lives. A lot of people think environmental justice or climate justice is icebergs melting in Norway or something like that. When in this community, we are breathing air that is 2 times worse than other communities. We're drinking water. There are a lot of things that are shortening the lives of people in this community that folks in this community who are working 2 jobs doing that don't even have the time to think about. And so we try to make those things that happen on the 30,000 foot level something that hit the ground, and then bring people in, and we do it for an entire week to make folks aware how important environmental justice is. So I guess what I'm saying to you in the long run is, what are your thoughts and the impact of environmental justice in our communities, in particular, South King County?
Yeah. So absolutely true. And one of the major drivers of those place and race-based outcomes I talked about earlier is because there's more pollution, because there's more impact from the types of activities that we do countywide that concentrate in some areas, expose people in those areas to more toxins, and therefore it impacts their life and their health. And so absolutely
There's
true.
a freeway.
Yeah.
There's an airport.
Right.
There's apartments with parking lots that don't have trees.
Where we put things.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, go ahead.
Where we put things and where we don't put things. It affects people's lives. So I'll just it is a long list of things that are needed. I want to talk about two in particular, and then any more that you want me to touch on. But I'll say the first one is when it comes to the climate action side, which is trying to address the things that are causing climate change. We have some initiatives that I think can really help in a lot of ways with climate justice. So part of our strategic climate action plan at King County was to plant 1 million trees. Our first plan said plant 1 million trees. And we did that very quickly. We did it all over. I think one of the things that we should have as we go into our next round of climate action is, let us plant 1 million trees in places where it may be difficult to plant them because you've got a lot of hardscape. Because those are the places where you don't have environmental justice, where there is blacktop everywhere, where it's industrial, or like you said, we built apartments and there's no green space. We're going to have to break through the pavement and put more trees, but trees then help with water quality and air quality and shade, and they reduce heat islands. They're good for mental health. I think we should have a massive tree planting program, and we should focus it where people tell us we have these heat islands, right? But a lot of them are here in South Seattle and South King County. But things like that, thinking about, all right, we're doing this for climate reasons. Let us be targeted in our climate action in a way that also improves the quality of life and the health of people where the biggest impacts are. The second thing I've been very focused on, and the next executive will have to work on, is water quality.
We have the Duwamish.
Yeah.
10 minutes from the location of the Columbia City Theater, and a lot of folks aren't even aware that it's right there.
And you think about all the storm water, all the right now. So when it doesn't rain for a while and you start, and then it does, and you start up your car and the wheels spin, that's because of all the junk that's on the road that has accumulated. And now the water is washing it right into the Duwamish. And that will happen everywhere. But here, where you are near the Duwamish, and then as you get closer to where the Duwamish outfalls, you end up with really bad water quality problems, very toxic. So it's stormwater, it's sewers. King County is responsible for the regional sewer system. Seattle has a big role. King County has a big role. We come together. We need to make sure that system is working. The pipes are working. The treatment plants are working, that they are up to scratch. There are new and newly discovered toxins that are entering the waters now. You've heard about forever chemicals like PFAS. Those get into the water. If they get into your body, they are in your body forever. That is why they are called forever chemicals. And so we need to upgrade the systems to move that type of toxin out of the water so it's not, and of course they collect downhill, right? Closer to the water is where these things collect. So the next county executive has to make a huge priority out of water quality, in my view. And that is going to take a lot. I will tell you quite honestly, I do not believe that the ratepayers of King County can afford everything we need to do. We could just raise the rates and raise them and raise them until you couldn't afford your water rates and your sewer rates, and we still couldn't do everything we needed to do. So I've started working on building partnerships around the country. Red states have this problem. Blue states have this problem. Everybody has this problem. So if we make a strong partnership that is bipartisan, I do think that when the federal government gets around, as they will someday, to another big infrastructure bill, it's got to include a lot of investment in water systems. They don't do that very much. We need them to.
I'm going to give you an opportunity for a closing statement. I did ask you some of the same questions that I asked candidate Sahilai. I asked some questions that I thought would be specific for him to share with us so that we could know what his thoughts were. And some of the questions for you have been the same way. And so before I give you the opportunity for a closing statement, here at Rainier Avenue Radio, we represent communities that often feel unheard in local government. What would you say to Black neighborhoods, to historically Black neighborhoods who believe that King County has neglected them? And how will you prove, if you will, that your administration will be different?
Yeah. Well, I absolutely am committed to making sure that we build the connections and the two-way communication and partnership to understand both what challenges and opportunities there are and what the King County can do about them and how well we are doing. And just to, I mean, to me, the secret is going back to my labor relations days, open and regular communication. We have, and it's got to be two-way. It's not just us telling you, here's what we're doing. What do you think? It's got to be an open door for communication both ways. One of the things I am committed to, because I do come from an area that is, I'm very familiar with the area I represent, very familiar. I need to become more familiar with the other areas I don't represent. I am committed to having a person and persons, but a particular person within my administration that would be from the community and be the person keeping me accountable and connected to the community. That way, when I say there's an open door and a phone line, there's an actual person connected to it who is like at the top level of government that is representative of the Black community and historically Black communities, because you need to know that there's somebody you can call. County executive represents 2.3 million people. I'm not always going to be there to pick up the bat phone, but I want somebody who is tasked with and accountable to and holding me accountable to working with these communities, because you're right. You are right. The community has been underinvested in, under included, and you see the results. And my commitment is to do better than that, but I will need to have partnership in order to do so.
And I'm glad you said that. And one of the things that I'll say in response to that is, regardless if you're just talking about Black people, but if you're talking about our community, we are not one monolithic, homogenous community.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand the issue with that. Who do you talk to when you're talking about two-way communication?
Yeah.
And that's, of course, been very difficult the entire time.
Right.
Who do you talk to when you're talking about a diverse community that speaks over 70 different languages and 100 different dialects? Is an immigrant population, is at one point historically Black population, is a very wealthy population that has been here for generations as well. All of us living in the same community and neighborhood. I'm not asking you to respond to that. I'm just saying that that's.
I will say that's the work. The work is you have to put yourself out there as much as possible in as many ways as possible. I've developed strategies that I have used in my career so far. So when I was the mayor of a city of 120,000 people, and people would call and say, I want to talk to the mayor, and the answer would be, what are you doing in 8 weeks? And that was never very satisfying. Like, I wanted to be available to people. So one of the things I did, every Saturday morning for the better part of a decade, I sit in a coffee shop and I talk to anybody who wants to come and talk to me. You have to make an appointment. You have to make an appointment. But if you call and make an appointment, I will have coffee with anybody. In a county of 2.3 million people, I'm unlikely to coffee my way to everybody. But I'm committed to coming up with strategies like that to be available personally to as many people as possible, because that's how you keep in touch with a diverse and changing community. It's very diverse, and it's people are coming and going all the time. So, but that's the work. The work is to stay in touch in as many ways as much as possible, take it all in, react, act, and then assess how you did.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity here for closing statements. Here at Rainier Avenue Radio, we have we've had a good relationship with our county executive, and I would, whoever it is, would like that to continue on behalf of our community. And I think that knowing who Rainier Avenue Radio is important, and what we do is important. It's not about the massive numbers that we do or don't serve. It's about the fact that the people who need their voices amplified and their unanticipated challenges addressed become heard.
Yeah.
My guest again, and thank you for being here, running for King County Executive, Claudia Balducci. I want to give you about 1 minute and 30 seconds for final comments that you would like to share with our audience, whatever those comments may be.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It really was very important to me to have this conversation as well. And I hope it is.
You did make an effort. I appreciate that. I'm just letting folks, like, you know how we get in. We have open, honest conversation, and I appreciate you making sure that you took the time to speak to our community through Rainier Avenue Radio.
Thank you for saying
now
that.
I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It was important to me to do it. It's our first conversation. I hope it is not our last conversation. I hope that we continue to talk no matter what happens on November 4th. Again, I love all of these topics because the needs of communities everywhere echo each other. People want housing they can afford. They want to be able to stay stable in their housing. They want to see people in need get their needs met. They want to be able to get around and have good transportation, access to jobs, public safety, fairness and equity. All of it, everybody wants these things. The challenges on how to deliver them differ from place to place. And being successful as a local government is deeply, deeply connected to the fact that we stay in touch with each other, that we as a government understand and represent the needs of the community, and then respond to them and meet them, and then ask, how did we do? How did we do? And then adjust and improve, build on what works, improve on what doesn't. And we need to do it together. I am very proud over the years of my career of the partnerships that I have built in the places I have been. I have worked with leaders in cities all around this county to create more affordable housing. I have worked with some of my partners in East King County to create solutions to homelessness so that we are doing our part in helping to get people off the streets. I have been proud to fight for expanded transit and transportation options, and transportation safety has been a priority of mine for many, many years. I have been very invested in working on law enforcement and public safety that works for people and that is equitable and fair and accountable. In every one of these areas, I have spent years, I have worked hard, I have made relationships, I have had successes, and we have things that we still have a lot of work to do in all of these areas. I would very much appreciate being the next King County executive to work with you, with the listeners here, with the community, to continue to advance in all of these ways during a very difficult time, when the federal government is pushing back and pulling back on us, when the state government isn't able to be as helpful as they have been in the past. I believe that my experience, the relationships I've built, and frankly, my ability and willingness to push hard, big rocks up steep hills, would serve this community and this county well. I want to encourage you, if you have a question for me, or you thought of something that you did not hear me speak about, or you have a disagreement you want to express, please look at our website. It's www.claudiabalducci.com. You can find our email there. Send questions. We will answer them. And please remember to fill out your ballot. Remember to use a county ballot drop box. It is getting very late for the mail. Your vote might not count if you put it in a mailbox, so please put it in a drop box. I would love to earn your vote, but please do vote. Thank you so much.
All right. And you know what? We did get questions from folks who were watching. That's on me. I didn't bring it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass your question off to candidate Balducci.
Thank you.
And candidate Balducci can either answer your question or not answer your question and validate. But then if candidate Balducci does not answer your question and comes King County executive, we're going to hold candidate Balducci.
Well, you should hold me accountable regardless.
Accountable. But if you send in a question, which I know some of you did, and we didn't get it, I'm sorry about that. We just had a lot to get to, and I appreciate you taking the full hour to have this conversation with us. It's your vote. On Tuesday, we're going to actually be inside of King County elections. Nice. We're going to be right there where the ballots are being counted. just to show you the transparency of how this process is supposed to work, so that we don't. You see what's happening. You know that you voted. You know that your vote is getting counted. You know that there is no fraud taking place in this election. So we're going to be inside. We'll be right there at King County Elections from 2 to 4 broadcasting. Then we'll be back here from 7 to 9 with the show to talk about all of the outcomes and what that's taking place. Again, this has been our Community Election Connection. Thank you to the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle for powering this. Thank you to the Community Police Commission for the 4-part series on police accountability. Thank you to all of you who participated, brought questions, brought ideas about things that we should talk about, discuss. We tried to get at everything. I think this was really successful, Candidate Balducci, in that we did it for a bunch of days. And now I'm realizing that other media are starting to go, well, wait a minute, we should be covering more, which is what should happen. But as independent media, that's what we do. That's what we get out. We are concerned about making sure the needs of our community get addressed. And yeah, so cool. Thank you for doing this. That's it. That's all the time that I have. We got Halloween that'll be starting here pretty soon. I already see some people showing up for trick or treat. And Columbia City Halloween is on point here at Columbia City Theater. Come on down. We've got some special treats for you. We've also got some scary stuff. Maybe nothing scarier than a conversation on politics. I told you it's going to be a scary day today, but it's all good. That's it. That's all the time that I have. That is going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, on behalf of Rainier Avenue Radio, the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, the Community Police Commission, and our community, saying whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you are probably right.
Let's go.